This podcast is authorized and paid for by Friends of Gentner Drummond 2026.
Good evening, and thank you for joining this live telephone town hall meeting with Attorney General Gentner Drummond. My name is Matthew Parker, and I have the honor of serving as the campaign chairman for Gentner's campaign for governor. Throughout the evening, if you'd like to ask Attorney General Gentner Drummond a question, press *3 on your touchtone phone, and you'll be placed into a queue, and we'll get to as many questions as we can over the next hour. I just want to start by saying thank you to every veteran who has worn the uniform and served our country. Our freedoms are not free, and it's because of the sacrifice that you all have made that we can enjoy these freedoms and live in this great country. We're here tonight to talk about your priorities, your concerns, your questions. And I just want to say to General Drummond, it's an honor to work on your campaign. Thank you for serving our great country. And without further ado, I'd like to just turn it over to you.
Thank you, Matt. And to all the veterans and family members and support members watching tonight, thank you for participating. We're very excited to have this inaugural Veterans Town Hall. And if this works for you, we'll have more of them as we go through the next 8 years. And I'd like to just really begin to kind of set the table with, a little bit about my background. Like so many veterans, I wish that we had the time for everybody's story. Mine began really as a 14-year-old when my grandfather sat me down. He said, "Gentner, you're the oldest of 65 in the Drummond family up in Osage County, where we've been raising cattle since the 1890s. He said, none of us have served in the military, and I want you to make me two promises. One, I want you to serve, and I want you to get out and come back home to the ranch and raise your children. And when they're all out of the household, I want you to come back and serve the state." I'm 62, so that was 48 years ago. I made that promise to serve our military, raise our family with Wendy, and then serve our state. And that's been the path I've been on. I went to Oklahoma State. Initially was enrolled in Army ROTC. We took our officer qualification test. I'm not very smart, but I test well. And the Air Force came knocking on my door and said, "You don't want to walk, you want to fly. Join the Air Force." And I thought, that sounds like a great idea. Never flown before. So I took that opportunity. And after graduating from Oklahoma State, I went to flight school and had a great time. I can remember I was at a Euro-NATO training base in Wichita Falls, and all of the instructors were European. I had a Norwegian. I wasn't doing that great early on. And he said, you come from a cattle ranch. I ride horses. Fly a jet like you ride a horse. And everything fell into place for me from there on out, and graduated so that I could get an F-15 and flew that F-15 for the next 6 years, active duty in the military. It was a great opportunity, culminating in the Gulf War. As so many of you that are with us tonight served in the Gulf War. I will tell you, my story really began with regard to military appreciation when I was a 10-year-old with the veterans coming home from Vietnam. And, there was a sadness and a sickness in America. We didn't value the veteran, and yet the veteran had put himself or herself in harm's way and was not being properly respected. And I can remember as a 10-year-old saying, I'm going to do something that's different. I'm going to change that. And so when I put on that uniform the first time in 1981, it really came home to me to be serving in the military, and at that point in ROTC. So it was impactful. I did serve those 8 years, ended up fighting in the Gulf War. I'll come back to that in a minute. And then studied law. And Wendy and I have raised our 6 children out on a cattle ranch in Osage County. They're now all grown. But at those 30 years in between military and serving as Attorney General, we were very blessed with economic success in ranching and banking and wireless retail, law, and retreat centers. And we've had a very blessed run. All those kids are now grown, and they're graduated and married, and we have 7 beautiful grandchildren. More to come, no doubt. And then my turn came to serve our state as Attorney General. And when I ran on 4 promises. I want to give just a quick update for those that are listening. One, when I took the oath, we had just right around 12,000 marijuana grow facilities in the state. We knew 9,000 registered, about 3,000 off the grid. I formed an organized crime task force, and we took the battle to the enemy. And since then, in collaboration with federal partners, tribal, state partners like Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics and OMMA, we've shut down 10,400 Chinese and Mexican cartels. We've taken billions of dollars of black market marijuana off the street. We've taken thousands of pounds of fentanyl. And now that the Trump administration is in, now when we go on a bus, we have ICE there with us. They provide support. And then those that we keep and detain and prosecute, we keep, but the ICE and Homeland Security personnel load up the rest in a paddy wagon, process them, and deport them. So that's impactful. It's amazing results. And I give huge credit and shout out to President Trump because he closed our border to give us a fighting chance, and he enforces criminal justice, which is my lane. Also, we've made great strides in integrating Native American tribes in the law enforcement activities of the state. So we've built back that bridge on criminal justice. We've opened up the records of the state of Oklahoma and required elected and appointed officials to comply with open records and open meetings requirements. And then lastly, we have taken the battle to out-of-state fraudsters. If the big pharma and the pharmacy benefit managers that injure our state cost us extra millions of dollars, the out-of-state insurance companies that come in and make you, Oklahoma, pay twice you should be paying on a national average and giving you claims of less than one half of what you should be getting, and other out-of-state corporations, I have taken the battle to them and holding them accountable. Now, in this campaign cycle, you will see lots of adverse advertisement against this candidate. And I will tell you the source. The source is out-of-state corporations that want to dictate to Oklahomans who will be their next governor. And I'm not going to permit that. I represent you, the people. I'm an independent conservative voice for Oklahomans, and I'm going to fight that fight to lower your cost of living, to protect your home, and to protect your future. Now, I'm a candidate for governor, and really there's 5 issues I want to touch on briefly.
Before you touch on those, we have a lot of new people that are joining the call. We've had almost 2,000 people join this meeting so far, which is incredible.
That's amazing.
If you'd like to ask General Drummond a question, please press *3 on your phone. You'll be placed into a queue. That's *3. And we are going to spend the next hour with Gentner telling his story, talking about why he's running for governor, but also answering your questions. Again, *3 on your touchstone to get placed into a queue. Go ahead. Sorry.
Real quickly, I want to wrap up with the 5 points that are important for Oklahoma. We need a governor who owns education. It needs to be priority number 1. We are better than 50th. And that starts with the 2, 3, and 4-year-old. They need to have quality daycare. So when they start kindergarten, they're mentally prepared and they're fed and emotionally ready. And so that by the time they hit 3rd grade, they're reading proficiently. But we also need to look at those 11th graders and 12th graders. Not every child needs to go to the university. So many of you on this line right now went directly into the military. I think we should encourage military service to our youth. And those who don't want to serve in the military or go to the university need to go into the career techs. We need more pipe fitters and welders, electricians, plumbers, CDL, nurse assistants, hygienists to make us ready to grow economically. So education, number 1. Number 2 and 3, healthcare and mental health. We're better than 48th and 46th in the nation. And I give high marks to our veteran centers. I'm excited. I got to tour the facility in Salisaw. It made me want to immediately retire and get in line for a room. But also I've been watching the construction in Tulsa with a remarkable veteran center there. So veterans, we've got a bright future in Oklahoma, but we need a leader. We've not had a leader who's a veteran in decades. And I'm excited to be that leader that drive healthcare and mental health measurables to Oklahomans. And then we need to continue to focus on workforce development. And then the secret weapon of Oklahoma, we have 38 federally recognized Native American tribes. If they were publicly traded corporations, 3 would be Fortune 500 companies. Chickasaws, Choctaws, Cherokees. The state of Oklahoma needs to begin partnering with them, joint venturing, working with them on criminal justice, working with them on workforce development, with military contracting, aviation, and infrastructure improvement. So there's so many opportunities to work with the tribes. So that's the promise. I make you 5 promises. I will deliver on those promises because I'm a man who keeps his word.
Should we get into some questions from the audience?
Absolutely.
We've got Clint from Tahlequah. Clint, you're live with Gentner Drummond.
Hello, Mr. Drummond. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Clint. How are things in Tahlequah?
It's still here. You know how it is. A couple questions real quick for you. One, my background. I think you do anyway. Will you stand for the crooked politicians and stuff in this state?
Absolutely. I am holding accountable those that are connected, powerful, and rich Oklahomans that have got political favors and have stood with those corrupt politicians that have injured us. And I'm got ongoing investigations to hold accountable every elected and appointed official in the state of Oklahoma.
All right. So thank you, Clint. Our next question comes from Ronald. Ronald, go ahead, please.
Yeah. My question has to do with our school system statewide. Our rural schools are somewhat struggling. We have a lot of kids that transfer from one school to another, and then the next year they transfer back, and then they go back to another school. And a lot of kids are being homeschooled. The homeschool laws, they go back to the early 1900s, and there's very little regulation on homeschooling. And so I know that there are some parents out there that do a great job in homeschooling, but I do know that some that didn't even graduate from high school that are homeschooling their kids. So that's a concern of mine.
Certainly. And Ronald, I will tell you, I think you and I would agree that the duty and obligation to educate the child begins with the parent. So the parent is in control of the child's education, which drives school choice. I'm a public school graduate. As you are probably a public school product. I have high regard for public school education, but not all parents want their children in public schools. So some choose homeschooling, some choose charter schools, and some choose private schools. So I'm an advocate for the parent to have the choice to put their child where there is. Now, what I can control as the governor is the opportunities in our public schools. And you've identified a very important issue. I live outside of Hominy, Oklahoma, population 2,100. We have a great public school, but there are challenges unique to rural schools that need to be addressed, and we need to give our school districts that opportunity, just like there are unique problems to interurban schools, which have a totally different demographic and different challenges for sure, and then our suburban schools. So we've got a mix, and we need a governor that recognizes that, owns it, and is committed to making a difference. So I join you in my frustration, Ronald, and I appreciate you elevating that to us, but I can promise you I'm committed to making an impact.
Thank you.
All right. Well, our next question comes from Brent in Oklahoma City. Brent, you're live.
Hi, Attorney General Drummond. Something I wanted to talk about is what would you do? Because right now the growing issues we have in Oklahoma and across the country is principles. Principles guide us, they lead us, and they help us, know what's right, what's wrong, and it doesn't change what, initials behind your name when you vote. But right now, as governor, you have fought back, but as governor, what will you do to protect states' rights? And how will you actually foster a culture of principles, not just political ideology?
Brent, I love your question, and it's going to take more than a soundbite. So let me explain this. One, I believe in the destiny of the state. I believe that the state has the authority reserved to us in the Constitution under the 10th Amendment. While President Biden was our leader, I sued him 17 times, pushing back on federal overreach, and was successful in all 17 occasions. As with the Trump administration, it's much more exciting to align with the president's agenda that advances state rights. So now my target is pushing back against the liberal states that would try to dictate how we educate our children, how we produce agriculture and things like that in the state of Oklahoma. So I'm all about states' rights, but I want to talk about as you mentioned, principles, and it really goes back to my very first mission in the Gulf War. I was selected to be one of the 4 mission commanders that took the fight into Baghdad the very first night of the Gulf War. And I can remember crossing the border between Saudi Arabia to Iraq with 4 F-15s and 48 fighter bombers. We were met immediately with a barrage of anti-aircraft artillery. We had scores of surface-to-air missiles fired against our strike package, and we had MiG-29s against us from Baghdad. We pushed back, destroyed, defeated everything in our path, and delivered the strike package to Baghdad, where they delivered their ordnance. And it was a spectacular visual to watch all of that armament being deployed accurately and effectively. And as they left, my number 3 and 4 man led them back toward safety, and I stayed on the target as the mission commander. And then I followed as the rear guard. And as we got closer to Saudi Arabia, I was ordered to go back north and was targeted on a bandit. I found him at about 100 miles, called out his heading altitude, airspeed, range. They said, "That's your bandit, you're cleared to kill." And you know this from training in the military, that clear to kill means that you're cleared to kill. And ran my intercept, a supersonic, about 32,000 feet, could shoot at about 45 miles. He'd blow up at 25. He was at 5,000 feet. He couldn't shoot me until about 12 to 14 miles, and I wouldn't blow up till 8. So I felt pretty offensive, knowing he'd be dead before he could even shoot me. I broke lock, and I remember looking around. There's nobody else in the sky at that moment. Re-engaged him, and that little delay let my body catch up to the jet, and I concluded he had to be a friendly for my strike package. And I told my wingman, he's friendly, I'm not going to kill him. And I ran that intercept, and I was ordered to kill him 3 times. I disobeyed 3 direct orders, ran the intercept. I was right, they were wrong. He was a Saudi Tornado pilot. He came back with me on my wing. We landed. When I pulled into my chocks, I was arrested by the military police and led in handcuffs. And when I got in, by the time I got in, he had told his commander, who told his, came across on the U.S. side, and I was met by a general officer who said, "Take off his handcuffs, give him a Distinguished Flying Cross." Now, I share that story because of this. And you talk about principles and discipline. What I did that night was no different than any other military officer or enlisted man would do. And that is, we do the right thing regardless of the cost. And as your Attorney General, I've done the right thing time after time after time. Not the politically correct thing, but the right thing. And I promise you, as your governor, I will put Oklahoma first. I will fight for you, and I will push back against federal overreach, out-of-state corporations who would harm us, and corrupt politicians who would injure Oklahomans' paychecks. So you've got my promise.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brent. Now, for those of you who are just joining this call, *3. If you'd like to ask Gentner Drummond a question, please press *3. We've got a dozen or so people in the queue that will get to their questions. But again, *3 to ask a question. Also, if you'd like to get in, show your support for Gentner's campaign for governor by placing a sign in your yard, press 1 on your touchstone phone right now, and we will get you a yard sign if you'd like to support Gentner in that way. Our next question comes from Tommy in Duncan. Tommy, go ahead, please.
Yes. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I work a lot with the Oklahoma Veterans Homes. We go there, bingo and ice cream parties and stuff like that. And I just want to know what your opinion is on how to start taking better care of the veterans that are in our veterans' homes.
Tommy, I appreciate your service in Vietnam. You fought in a hard, unpopular war, but yet I want you to know the impact your generation had on mine. And I'm not that much younger than you, but you impacted me by your service, selflessly serving our nation when others in our nation were against that war. So thank you for that, and you've been an inspiration to me. So as it relates to our veterans' homes, I mentioned earlier, the brand new facility in Sallisaw is remarkable. I know we're building a new facility in Tulsa. That's remarkable. We need to drive resources to veterans. Tennessee has a plan that they have got their Veterans Administration no longer an allocated, budget-dependent administration. And I'd love to see us do something like that for the Veterans Administration, because we have fewer and fewer elected officials that are veterans. So I'm afraid that the emphasis on protecting and taking care of those men and women who have served our nation will be diminished So I'd like to see it be self-funded. I have some ideas that I'll try to implement, or I will implement with our legislature once I'm elected. But to the listeners, I'm a veteran. I am one of you. You and I are alike, and we have got to stand together, united in this barrage of sentiment, and protect one another.
Well, I would like for you to come to the Oklahoma Veteran Council meeting of all the veteran organizations that are in Oklahoma that are supporting the veterans at the homes and homeless veterans and all.
Tommy, I would love that. And if you will press 1, you will have an opportunity to give me an invite, and I will attend. And I've hosted the leadership council a couple of times in my office already. I'm aware that there's a lot of push and pull on a political level at the state, with the governor particularly. He doesn't understand veterans, don't know that he cares about veterans. I certainly do as your attorney general, and I can promise you veterans will be front of mind as your governor. Thank you, Tommy.
Yes, sir.
All right, our next question comes from Danny in Sand Springs. And before we get to Danny, again, *3 if you'd like to ask Gentner Drummond a question. Danny, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was wanting to know how you're going to treat the Indian tribes, because state has done nothing but try to take away the solidarity and all the benefits of the Indian tribes. I'm also a veteran too, but I'm also a member of the Cherokee tribe.
Danny, thank you for your service. And I hear you, brother. I've been working. I think it is an absolute sin the way the governor has treated our tribal partners. They are our partners. We watch big companies like Devon and Chesapeake abandon our state. You know who's never going to leave our state? The 38 tribes, Native American tribes, that call Oklahoma home. So I have reached out with every tribal leader in the state to apologize for the behavior of our governor and promise solidarity and partnership with them. I am so excited to work with our tribes at every level. As an example, 2 weeks ago, we had a huge marijuana bust north of Claremore, and it was a massive facility, armed guards, a dangerous area to go. I called on the Marshal of the Cherokee Nation. He deployed 40 men and women with Bearcats and sniper support. It was an amazing display of firepower, and the integration with the Attorney General's office and my agents and other federal partners was a testimony to the collaborative nature of the tribes who take criminal justice seriously, and the state by and through my office. So I look forward to that continuing for the next 8 years. We're going to build back that bridge, and we're going to illustrate to the world that our partners, our number one partners, are the tribes of Oklahoma.
Appreciate that.
You bet. Thank you.
All right, again, if you'd like to ask a question, please press *3 to be placed in a queue, and we will get to as many questions as we can. Our next question comes from Michael in Miami. Michael, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. First, I want to thank you for your service, not only as a soldier and a veteran, but also as our Attorney General. My biggest question is, when I was a little kid, you couldn't go very far, and it's still about the same right now. You can't go far without seeing a grasshopper doing push-ups, and what I'm talking about is these oil wells going up and down, and that's great. That means we are a producer. My question is what does the price of eggs in China got to do with us? I mean, we have our own oil. I don't know if we have our own refinery or not, or how that really all ends up working, but the point I'm saying is we got gas stations that automatically overnight raised their prices, even though they still had the same gas in the tank the day before, but yet they went 10, 20, 30 cents up. And so as Attorney General, are you doing anything about the way these companies are gouging us Oklahomans for that gas? And again, how does that help us as far as these gas prices that are going up and down without any real cause? Because Iran, what's going on there, really doesn't have anything to do with our fuel, because we're supposed to be self-sufficient, is my understanding.
Right. You raise a great question. So number one, our oil and gas industry in Oklahoma is our number one economic driver. So you are right. We are a net producer of oil and gas, and we supply the world right here in Oklahoma. Now, you raise a great point with the Iranian conflict, and that's with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. It's caused oil and gas prices to go up. So what happens in Oklahoma? We produce the oil, we produce the gas, we put it in the pipeline, it goes through Cushing and then down south toward Houston, or north and northeast to Chicago and the northeast. So we are a net producer, and our oil and gas go out of the state. Our refineries, we don't have the major refineries that Houston does, but we have excellent refineries throughout the state of Oklahoma, which are classified as small refiners. I have met with many of them and want to continue to protect them. And you raise a great point, because they're required to sell their product into the national market. And I would like to see us be able to capture some of that here in Oklahoma, so that we are not so dependent on the international and national pricing of oil and gas. But that's something I've begun working with refineries, and see if we can't keep that gas and oil in Oklahoma. So thank you for elevating that point. And you're absolutely right. The escalating gas price at the pump injures every Oklahoman, particularly those on fixed income. And we do a great job with a small tax basis on that gas, but we need to continue to drive that point home. Great question.
All right. Again, if you'd like to ask Gentner Drummond a question, you can do so by pressing *3. Also, if you'd like a Gentner Drummond for Governor yard sign, press 1 on your touchtone phone. We'll have somebody deliver that to you. Our next question is coming from Russell in Oklahoma City. Russell, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, Oklahoma is ranked 47th or 48th in education. Are you willing to look at the Massachusetts standards of education? Because Massachusetts is ranked, as far as USAFacts.com, they're ranked number 1 in education. So would you be willing to look at what they're doing to see if
Absolutely.
you can do the same thing?
Russell, when I declared for governor 16 months ago, I sat down and met with policymakers in different states: Louisiana, Mississippi, Ohio, Indiana, Oklahomans, administrators, teachers assistants, professionals, to find out, what are we doing wrong? What can we do differently? And so you're right. Some states get it right. And I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. I want to steal the best practices from any state, blue or red, that does the right thing in education. Mississippi has done a remarkable job, a good red state. I've not yet studied Massachusetts, but if it's ranked number 1 and they're doing something that we can steal here in Oklahoma, we're going to steal it, because our kids deserve to have the very best education in this world. And if we can't deliver, we have got to be better than at the bottom of the state. And you need a governor who prioritizes that. And I can promise you, my number 1 commitment to the state of Oklahoma is to work with our educators, elevate and honor them, retain them, incent young people to come into the industry and drive our performance up the chart. And I'm not going to be satisfied until we're number 1 in the nation. That's a great question. And thank you, Russell.
All right. Again, if you'd like to ask a question, go ahead and press *3 now. And our next question is from Pete in Chickasha. Go ahead, Pete.
Hi there. Thank you for your service. I'm a disabled veteran myself out of Vietnam and Laos. My question is about the children. Are we going to be able to put armed guards in our class and in schools to protect the children from, these people trying to kill them? And then are we going to try to protect the children from teachers and administrators who think that they need to be trying to convince a second grader that he's in the wrong body? That's it.
Pete, I appreciate the question. And let's just pause right now. We've got a lot of Vietnam veterans on the line. You stepped into Laos. That was dangerous territory, brother. So thank you for putting yourself in harm's way for our American way of life. And I deeply respect and appreciate your service. As it relates to protecting our children, Pete, you had two sets of the question.
Well, I just
Yes, sir.
want to tell everybody I was not an operator. I was just a GI Joe, and opened my big mouth and wound up on some trails in Laos. So, but anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I'm glad you're back with us safe. So in the classroom, we petitioned the legislature 3 years ago to say we need funding for what we classify as resource officers. And that is skilled, trained, CLEAD certified men and women that can carry a gun and protect our students. So the legislature gave us interim funding 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and 1 year ago, and we've lobbied the legislature to make that permanent. So every school district in the state of Oklahoma will continue to be funded sufficient funds to put a armed guard in their school facility. So that's important. Secondly, as it relates to teachers that would try to drive the behavior of children, transgender or whatever you might call it, that is illegal in the state of Oklahoma, and I enforce those laws. I've been sued by the ACLU, and we've repelled and pushed back that. So teachers in the state of Oklahoma are to respect the birth gender of the student, and any issue relating to that child sexuality is in the parents' realm exclusively. So schools are not to interfere. And under my watch as Attorney General, I've not permitted that. And as your governor, I will continue to enforce those rules so that parents have the voice, teachers do not. But thank you for that question. It's great, and I'm glad to have you with us.
Again, *3 if you'd like to ask a question. And if we don't get to every question tonight, you'll have an opportunity to leave a voicemail for Gentner. But in the meantime, we're going to get to as many questions as we can. Our next question comes from Tracy in Norman. Tracy, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody that served the country, and thank you for taking my questions. The first question I have has to do with property taxes. I think they're illegal. It's not in the Constitution. The only thing that can be taxed is income. I think what we need to take a look at is repealing the property taxes for everybody, commercial, everybody, and replacing it with a state uniform sales tax. I think Norman has a 10% tax. I wouldn't mind paying 15% for a couple of years, see how it works, and then bringing it back down. There's a lot of people in this state that are they're in trouble and about losing their home. A lot of them are paid off, and they can't make payments on their property taxes. So I think we need to take a look at that. The second thing I think is homeowners insurance, health insurance. That stuff is unbelievable. I've received 30% increases 2 years in a row, and then this year I got a 24.5% increase in my homeowners insurance.
Tracy, those are great questions, and I'd love to respond to those. So thank you. You've really given me two big questions. One's property tax. So here's my position: seniors and veterans should have their property tax capped and frozen, and we should raise the homestead exemption from $1,000 upward toward $2,000 for all Oklahomans. So you're right. Now, just for the listeners out there, cities run on sales tax in Oklahoma. Counties run on property tax. So that's our sheriff's department, our roads and bridges, and our education are run on property taxes. And then the state runs on income tax. But I acknowledge, and I totally get your point, we are pricing people out of their home, and we cannot do that. So we must review nuts to soup our income, our property, and our sales tax in the state of Oklahoma. So you have my commitment to do that. Now, on insurance, you raise a point. You're reading off my script. We received hundreds of complaints in the fall about insurance for the home insurance being driven through the sky. And we have begun investigating that. And then about 6 weeks ago, I intervened in a lawsuit against State Farm, and that is being argued at the Supreme Court this week. On whether or not the Attorney General can hold accountable out-of-state insurance companies that come into our state and pick on us. So, for instance, if your Norman home were in Fayetteville, you would pay 1/2 the amount of insurance premium to have your same home insured in Fayetteville than you do in Norman. And if you had a claim in Fayetteville, you would be paid twice what you're being paid in Norman. That's wrong. I believe State Farm and other carriers like them are taking advantage of Oklahomans, and I, as the chief legal officer, am prosecuting them. I've got State Farm in my sights right now. We're building a case against Allstate. They'll be sued next, and there's a third on my watch list. And in addition to that, I've asked the insurance commissioner, Mr. Mulready, to hold an evidentiary hearing that I will be the prosecutor of, to illustrate that the insurance premiums in Oklahoma are non-competitive, which then will give us the right to dictate the reduction of insurance rates across the board. So property taxes, we need them, but we need to control them. We don't need to price people out of their homes, protect elders and veterans. Insurance rates, your Attorney General's on it, and I'm going to drive that home.
Again, if you'd like to ask a question, *3. Gentner, the next question, I'm just going to go ahead and read it because we had multiple people write in about Oklahoma, unfortunately, leading the country in domestic violence and what you are doing about that and what you can do as governor.
Right. So the Victim Services Unit of the state of Oklahoma is inside my office. I grew up in a household that had domestic violence, so it's acutely personal to me. It does not discriminate between rich and poor, black and white, Republican and Democrat, urban, rural, suburban. It is there, and it's a blight on the face of Oklahomans. We have led the nation in partner homicides for the last decade, and I am investing huge amount of resources, and I'm petitioning the legislature continuously to fund monies that go through my office to domestic violence centers, and we hold accountable those domestic violence centers to a standard such that they provide reasonable care at a standard that we've set, and those that don't, we put them on probation. But those that would attack me for having a big budget, it's all passed through. We pass through the resource monies to the schools. We pass through dollars to the sheriff's department. We pass through millions and millions of dollars to domestic violence. We have to do better, and we need additional funding. We also seek grants from the federal government, partnership with the tribes. We are going to drive home this message that the victim has a voice and the perpetrator will be prosecuted. Right now, on the Senate floor for approval is a bill that I've sponsored that would make strangulation of a partner strangulation a felony 85% crime. That would then, so that criminal that's convicted of that 10-year sentence has to serve at least 8.5 years in prison. Right now, they get a 10-year sentence and they're out in 2 years, and that's just not right. So it's dear and near to my heart. I'll be dogmatic on this issue until we change the measurables, but Oklahomans deserve better. 51% of our women in Oklahoma will experience sexual battery or physical abuse in their lifetime, and that's an embarrassment. We hold ourselves out to be a Christian state. We need to deliver Christian values.
All right, again, *3 if you'd like to ask a question. Our next question comes from Joe and Hera. Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I enjoy listening to you. You answered all my questions before I even got to say them. I admire your fortitude. I admire what your position is and what you're reaching for and what you're planning on doing. You don't talk like you're rattled. You act like you're, well, I won't say you act. You sound like you know what you're doing, what you want to do. You just need the help from the people and the people that's under you when you get in office. You got my vote, because I've never seen anybody run for that office that's talked like you. And I'm 88 and I've seen a few. I love the heck out of the way you talk.
I appreciate that. I'm just a homespun country boy. And I thank you for your service and thank you for your strong comments. And to the listeners that believe like Joe, please be my advocates. This is going to be a hard-fought campaign. There are 9 people vying to be the Republican nominee for governor. There are going to be millions and millions of dollars spent against my campaign because out-of-state corporations are afraid of me. They know if I'm elected, I will hold them accountable and drive them to behave correctly and not take advantage of Oklahomans. And so you're going to hear a lot of noise. You're going to hear a lot of ugly, terrible things about me. I can assure you they will be lies. So I need you to be my advocate, Joe. Tell your friends, your family, the guys in your veterans organization, your friends at church to vote for Drummond on June 16th. The race will be decided in the Republican primary. So I need everybody listening to roll out and vote. Thank you, Joe.
All right. Our next question comes from Tracy in Choctaw. Go ahead, Tracy.
Yes. First of all, again, thank you for your service, both to our country and to our state. My wife and I are both Air Force veterans. And perception here, with some direct observation, during Governor Stitt's time in office, the Oklahoma Department of Veteran Affairs has seemed to have come under attack quite a few times. Of course, there's been some personal things that have been involved in that, but I am curious if you have a plan for the Oklahoma Department of Veteran Affairs on how to restore maybe the leadership and representation on the council there, as well as how to restore the stability to keep that organization functioning well and serving veterans around the state.
Tracy, thank you for your question. Your observations are absolutely right. Since Governor Stitt has taken office, he has not appointed the individuals that are supposed to be representative, the organizations that are supposed to be represented on the Veterans Council. So it is, now I'm not taking anything away from the men and women serving on the council. They are selfless servants, and I appreciate them. We need to readdress this. We need to make sure Vietnam veterans are represented on that council. We need to make sure that modern day veterans are represented on that council. And, and I speak the language. I am a veteran. My heart goes out to every veteran's family. My son is a fighter pilot. He served in Afghanistan, and as a father, I was proud of him, but as a father, I was scared to death that he would go into harm's way. But I'm so thankful he's back home flying that F-16. So it's important to me on a personal level and as a parent and grandparent, and we need to keep our Veterans Administration strong, well-led, transparent, authentic, and responsive to the needs that the generational needs of our veterans evolve, and we need to evolve with them. So thank you for calling that out. You have my promise and my commitment.
All right, again, *3 if you'd like to ask a question. A few more minutes left. Our next question comes from James. James, go ahead.
Yes. I'd like to know what you're going to do about Social Security. And people that die, they say, oh, we don't have to pay you nothing. But see, now you're dead, we might give you $250. Do you know my mama, for over 30 years, had to 5 4-paws pet shops and had over 30 people working for her. She met their taxes, Social Security, penny for penny. Every time they made a penny, she had to make it. Well, when she died, they ain't give me a thing, not a thing. And I'm a veteran. Yeah, I'm a veteran. You better believe I am 100%. I was born in Norman and raised in Oklahoma. And yes, I'm a veteran of the 101st Airborne Rangers. And I did 3 years in Vietnam. And I think it's a shame that we treat our elderly where they can't even be buried after putting their whole life on hold to raise their kids and then die and can't get enough to even get buried because it takes $800 just to dig a hole for them. And so America is going stupid. I mean, totally crazy. And you as a governor would be probably a good guy to understand. And you know where I'm coming from because I'm sure you have a mother too.
Yes, sir. Listen. Well, first of all, 101st Airborne, you guys you're tough dudes. I can remember I was the first unit to land in Saudi Arabia in the Desert Shield timeframe, but about 18 hours later, in came the Rangers, 101st Airborne, and we knew we were safe. So thank you for your service, certainly in Vietnam as well. And you raise a great point. We have got to, now, Social Security obviously is a federal issue, but I can be the gatekeeper as your Attorney General and as your governor to make sure that Oklahomans who've paid in to Social Security get the benefit of what they've done. They've earned it, they've paid it, and they need to get it back. So I will be your watchdog and your partner. Thanks for your question.
All right, our next question is from Billy in Poto. Billy, go ahead, please.
Well, yeah, I'm Bill Bledsoe. I live at Poto, Oklahoma, and I am a Korean veteran. And a poor old guy at 96, still active. And my problem is the state park at Robbers Cave, and I'm sure this is all over the state. The equipment is completely out of date at the places where you go to camp. And I can't understand why the state of Oklahoma, it can't put in new modern equipment in there. You charge the people a good fee to get those places, yet the electrical and the kitchen stuff is old, and a lot of it is not in use. And I'm just wondering why we can't get somebody to go down there and inspect those things and update them before I kick off.
Billy, that's a great point. So one, thank you for your service in Korea. That's remarkable. You sound strong and vibrant. I imagine you'll be calling in the next several years of my town hall. So thank you for raising the issue. You are right. Tourism is the fourth most important industry in the state of Oklahoma. Our budget for tourism on the improvement of our parks is under $15 million. That's a lack of priority and a lack of leadership by our governor. Our state parks are the vacation destination for 60% of Oklahomans, and you deserve well-tended state parks. And I'm committed to that we make sure that they're sufficiently funded so that we have electrical and hygienic resources, and that the state park is something that every family is proud to bring their children to and enjoy a remarkable time. So, Billy, thank you for highlighting that. I'm aware of those issues. I'm not the governor yet. So roll out and vote on June 16th. Make me governor, and then I'll keep you that promise.
All right, I think we've got one more here. Gary in Moore, go ahead, please.
Hello, Mr. Drummond. My name is Gary Harmon. I live in Moore, Oklahoma. And I've got a question on the Indian casinos. I'd like to find out where the money that the state gets from them goes to education. What percentage goes to upper colleges and what percentage goes to lower education?
Okay. Well, thank you for your question. So we are under compact with the tribes, and we get a percentage, we get a royalty effectively of the revenue that the tribes generate. They are huge economic machines for the state of Oklahoma that drive a lot of benefits. So the tribes pay that royalty. The state of Oklahoma manages it and distributes it out through our educational system. I can't tell you as we sit here the percentages that go to public education and higher education, but I know that it's carefully watched over, and I will become a subject matter expert on that soon. But I don't resent the tribes earning revenue across the state of Oklahoma. They are great partners in our roads and bridges and in our education, separate from what they pay in the fee that they pay under the compact of the state. So in eastern Oklahoma, for example, the Cherokee Nation spends several $1 million a year in the school districts inside their 14-county jurisdiction, and they contribute to the county budget and the state budget for roads and bridges in their district, in their respective reservation. So we get that treatment throughout the state of Oklahoma with the Osages and the Pawnees and Kaw and Chickasaws, Choctaws, Cheyenne, Arapaho, and across the state. So they're great partners. We need to continue to elevate them and work with them and increase the opportunity for the state to benefit in joint venture in partnership with the tribes. So we'll continue to do that and drive money to education. Thank you for your question.
All right, again, thank you for being a part of this. And if we did not get to your question, you will be left on the call to be able to leave a voicemail. Again, if you'd like a yard sign, press 1. Simple as that. We'll make sure we get one in your yard. Thank you for participating in this. And Gentner, would you like to take a few minutes and just close it out and make your case on why you should be the next governor of the state of Oklahoma?
So we've got great veteran leaders throughout the state that have encouraged me to have this Veterans Town Hall, and I love it. And I love to interact with veterans everywhere I go throughout the communities of Oklahoma. We try to drop in at the veterans facilities. I'm a life member of American Legion in both Tulsa and in Hominy, my hometown, and I'm a life member at the VFW there in Tulsa, and travel across the state, enjoy what we have in Moore and Norman, Oklahoma City. I'm so proud of our veterans. You are making a difference to our state. And as a candidate for governor, I would like very much to continue my life as a public servant. People can't say I'm a career politician. I've been in office 3.5 years as the Attorney General. I've done what I say, and I will say what I do. And you can count on me to be honest and keep my word. And to do that, to make a difference in education, healthcare, mental health, workforce development, partnership with the tribes, protecting the veteran, I have to have your vote. I ask you kindly, vote for me on June 16th. If I have to go into a runoff, vote for me again on August 25th. But more importantly, tell your friends and family that you have heard from the candidate and that you believe in me and that you're a supporter. And with that, we can carry the day, and Oklahomans can once again put a veteran in the governor's mansion. Thank you, guys.
General Drummond, thank you. And for those of you that want to learn more information, you can go to drummondok.com, sign up to be volunteer, put a sign in your yard, host an event. Gentner will be all over all 77 counties across this state going into June 16th. Thank you for your participation. And if we did not get to your question, please stay on the line. You'll be prompted to leave a voicemail and somebody will get back to you promptly. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This podcast is authorized and paid for by Friends of Gentner Drummond 2026.